Just after noon, the primary security checkpoint at Naval Station Norfolk grinds nearly to a halt. Engines idle. Boots scrape against concrete. A few guards chuckle openly as a lone woman is directed to stand off to the side. Pulled from the flow of traffic like a nuisance no one wants to handle, her clothing is worn. Her hair is untidy. Her hands hang calmly at her sides. She looks easy to overlook. Easy to mock. Staff Sergeant Marcus Hale raises his voice so the entire line can hear. He does not address her as a person, but as a problem that wandered into the wrong place. Sailors glance over. A couple of phones come up. Laughter ripples through the checkpoint then. Falters when the woman does not react the way they expect. She doesn't argue. She doesn't beg. She doesn't shrink. Her stillness unsettles people, though few could say why. There is no fear in her eyes. No anger in her posture, only control, held so tightly it seems to alter the air around her. She appears powerless, standing there alone. And yet something unseen coils through the moment, as if the ground itself is waiting. Within the next half hour, careers will end. A base will come under scrutiny, and a truth buried beneath uniforms and assumptions will rise to the surface. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories so you never miss these true accounts of courage. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from today. The woman does not introduce herself. She offers no name, no rank, no explanation that might stop what is unfolding. She simply stands where she's told, as if waiting itself were a task she has practiced for a lifetime. Up close, the details seem to confirm every assumption. Her jacket is old, the cuffs faded. Her boots are scuffed, not display polished, but worn until they've shaped themselves to routine. Her hair looks unwashed, pulled back with minimal effort. No jewelry. No purse. No wallet. Nothing that signals authority in ways civilians recognize. But there are other details, quieter ones. It's harder to miss if you know how to look. Her breathing remains slow, even as voices rise around her. Her eyes move in small, deliberate sweeps, tracking lanes, hands, distances. Exits the way a professional tracks weather. She never fully turns her back on the checkpoint. Even when told to face the wall, she angles herself just enough to keep the door and the men behind her in view. Like someone who learned long ago what happens in rooms when attention lapses. Her hands hang loose at her, sides ready without appearing ready. Not clenched. Not trembling. A stillness born not of fear, but of discipline. If anyone had asked, her name would have been Rear Admiral Evelyn Cross. She is in her early 50s. Her face shaped not by softness, but by years of responsibility that taught her economy of expression. Her true authority sits far above the chaos of the gate. Deputy Commander overseeing naval special warfare operations and readiness. A career spent in rooms where mistakes don't end in embarrassment, but in folded flags and unanswered calls. Yet here she is, no one, no insignia, no identification. An unidentified civilian operating under a classified, unannounced inspection authority, what some quietly call ghost protocol. In another world, her call sign is Ghost Echo, not a dramatic nickname, but a designation earned through work, never. Meant for public recognition. None of that is visible to the people. Watching now, they see only a woman who looks like she's run out of places to go. In a base that doesn't know what to do with anyone who doesn't, arrive neatly labeled Staff Sergeant Marcus Hale stands at the heart of the checkpoint, like he owns it. Broad shoulders, a practiced voice. Confidence sharpened by routine and the comfort of obedience. He doesn't merely enforce security, he performs it. He raises his voice, not because he must, but because he enjoys hearing the space bend around it. Beside him, Petty Officer Leia Grant leans against the counter, her grin too easy. Young enough to treat cruelty as entertainment, bored enough to turn the woman into a spectacle. Her phone appears in her hand without thought, angled just right, framing the woman like a story to share later. A harmless clip, she thinks. A joke for someone else's shift. Seaman Tyler Boone hovers nearby. Eager in the way new sailors often are, desperate to stay in rhythm with older voices. He laughs when Hale laughs. Smirks when Grant smirks. He watches for cues and copies them. Not malicious yet, but heading there fast. No one intervenes. Just outside the immediate circle stands Lieutenant Commander Rachel Vaughn, the duty officer. Her uniform is immaculate, her hair perfect, her patience thin. She treats time like a weapon and inconvenience like a personal insult. She doesn't see the woman as a person, only as a delay to be cleared. And forgotten, the woman reacts to none of it. She doesn't flinch when Hale mocks her, doesn't step back when Boone crowds her space, doesn't glare when Grant raises the phone. That silence feels like permission to the wrong kind of people. If she had pleaded, they could dismiss her. If she had shouted, they could punish her. But her calm gives them nothing to grasp in that unsettles them. So they push harder, searching for a reaction that might justify their behavior. Not everyone is laughing, Master Chief. Far enough to avoid the performance. A senior enlisted man who doesn't waste words. Because years of tight moments have taught him how to read posture and breath. He notices the woman's stance, her gaze, the way her shoulders stay relaxed under insult. He notices something else, too, a thin chain at her collar, barely visible when the wind shifts her jacket. A small metallic glint, worn smooth by time. Rohr says nothing. He doesn't challenge Hale publicly. He simply watches, the way one watches a storm forming on the horizon. Chief Warrant Officer Noah Pike is there for different reasons. Security systems. The infrastructure people forget until it fails. His attention drifts to the cameras, the sensors, the gates. Something feels wrong. Not sympathy analysis. The woman's composure doesn't match the story being told about her. At the far end of the line, a wheelchair rests in the shade of a concrete barrier. Samuel Red Hawkins, a Vietnam veteran, sits with a worn cap folded in his hands. He's seen fear. He's seen professionals under pressure. He recognizes this kind of stillness instantly. His gaze stays on the woman, not pity, but warning. He knows some of the most dangerous moments come not from violence, from misunderstanding. Nearby, 19-year-old recruit Emma Walsh stands among a small cluster of sailors, fresh enough to still feel the weight of the uniform with every movement. Her jaw is tight. Her eyes aren't curious, they're uneasy. Others record. Emma doesn't. She watches, quietly deciding what kind of sailor she intends to become. Still, the woman says nothing. No speech. No explanation. No plea to make the crowd feel merciful, and slowly, empathy begins to form, not from backstory, but from the simple act of watching someone endure humiliation with a dignity that doesn't ask permission to exist. Marcus Hale decides the moment needs more volume. He steps forward and points to a painted line near the outer barrier, his voice carrying with practiced authority. He orders the woman to move loudly, publicly, ensuring everyone watches. She complies immediately. *3 measured steps. She stops exactly where indicated. Her posture doesn't change. Her hands remain loose, her gaze leveled, neither defiant nor lowered. Hale smirks, as if obedience proves his point. Leia Grant circles her slowly, his eyes cataloging the scuffed boots, the worn jacket, the loose strands of hair. She wrinkles her nose theatrically and laughs, asking if the woman lost her shelter or just wandered in for attention. Then she nudges Tyler Boone, daring him to check the woman's pockets. Boone hesitates, just a heartbeat. Then he laughs, thin and eager, and steps forward. He brushes past her deliberately, shoulder to shoulder, his boot clipping her heel. Not an accident. A test dot. Will she react? She shifts her weight by a fraction, barely visible unless you're trained to see it. Hand remains upright. Her breathing never changes. That's when the laughter changes. It softens first, like a joke that's gone too long. Then it fractures. Some sailors look away. Someone coughs. Another stares too intently, searching her face for something recognizable. Phones remain raised, but hands hesitate. What would you have done standing there? Spoken up, knowing it might cost you favor? Or stayed silent, telling yourself it wasn't your place? Hale feels the shift before he understands it, and he hates it. He steps closer and orders her to answer when spoken to. Asks her name again, slower, louder. She meets his eyes for the first time, not in challenge, not in fear. Just acknowledgement. Then she says nothing. The silence lands heavier than shouting ever could. It forces Hale to fill a hand. He does so with accusations: trespassing, loitering, refusal to comply, all despite the fact she has followed every instruction given. Grant laughs again, too loudly, raising her phone higher. Roar shifts his weight, eyes fixed on the woman's hands and shoulders. Pike glances at the nearest camera, unease deepening. Red Hawkins tightens his grip on his cap, recognizing restraint, not confusion. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Vaughn arrives with clipped strides and visible irritation. She doesn't ask questions. She listens to Hale's summary without looking at the woman once. Trespasser. No ID. Non-compliant. That's enough. Vaughn labels the woman a security risk and orders temporary detention, authorizing an inspection room search with the detachment of signing paperwork. The woman does not protest. 2 guards move in. Hale grips her arm firmly, making sure everyone sees who's in control. She doesn't resist. She walks at the same steady pace she's held all along, eyes forward, steps even like someone escorting herself. Whispers follow them. Emma Walsh watches from the edge, something heavy settling in her chest, though she doesn't yet know how to name it. The inspection room is small, painted dull gray like every administrative space on base. A camera blinks red. A metal table is bolted to the floor. The door closes with a sound that feels too loud. Hale orders her to sit. She does. Grant leans against the wall, still recording. Boone lingers near the door, excitement draining. Vaughn stands with arms crossed, eyes already on the clock. The woman positions herself with her back to the wall, without instruction. Subtle, instinctive. Roar notices when he enters moments later. Her hands stay visible. Her chin remains level. Hale demands identification again. Silence. Grant scoffs, joking about wasted time and wasted resources. Pike suggests checking camera logs before proceeding. Vaughn cuts him off without looking. Process her and move on. We're not running a shelter. The word hangs heavy in the room. Outside, the base continues as normal. Inside, the woman remains silent, not because she cannot speak, but because she is watching how far they will go when they believe no one important is watching. Minutes pass. The answers grow darker. Grant begins the search with casual cruelty, tugging at the jacket. Mocking the smell of old fabric, patting her down with exaggerated movements meant to shame more than inspect. The woman doesn't react. Then something slips free from beneath her collar. A thin chain catches the light. Hanging from it is a small worn piece of metal, a challenge coin. Not polished. Not ceremonial. Its edges smoothed by years of handling. Grant laughs, lifting it between 2 fingers like trash found in the street. She jokes about pawn shops and souvenirs, asking if it's supposed to mean something. The woman says nothing. Master Chief Daniel Roar steps closer. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't correct her yet. He didn't ask how she had obtained it. He didn't ask permission to examine it. He looked once long enough to be certain, then straightened. For the first time since entering the room, he addressed her directly. Not with a question, but with a quiet acknowledgement. The kind that carried meaning only another professional would recognize. Then he turned and walked out without explanation. The door closed behind him. The sound heavy in the air, Leia Grant scoffed, unsettled now, muttering something about superstition. Hale frowned. Irritation creeping across his face as his sense of control began to erode. That was when the woman finally spoke. Her voice was calm, level. Stripped of emotion, she noted that the camera in the corner ran several seconds behind real time. The red indicator blinked, but the feed didn't log live. She mentioned the motion sensor outside the door had been inactive for weeks, judging by the dust gathered at its base. Almost casually, she added that the ventilation grate above the rear wall was unsecured, wide enough for someone with training to exploit. No accusation. No smugness. Just information. Hale laughed sharply and told her to stop guessing. Chief warrant. Officer Noah Pike moved to the control panel without being asked. He pulled up the diagnostics. The room fell silent. The camera timestamp showed the exact delay she'd described. The sensor logs recorded no activity for days. Pike accessed the maintenance report for the ventilation system and froze. The latch had never been logged as secured after the last inspection. Every detail she'd mentioned was accurate. Pike swallowed and looked up, his eyes flicking briefly toward Lieutenant Commander Vaughn. His expression said what he didn't dare voice. This wasn't luck. This was experience. The atmosphere shifted, brittle and tense. Authority no longer felt assured. It felt exposed. Hale's jaw tightened. Grant lowered her phone slightly, confidence draining from her posture. Boone shifted near the door, suddenly aware of how small the room felt. Vaughn stepped forward, her tone sharp, defensive. She accused the woman of bluffing, of using jargon to intimidate them. The woman didn't argue. She rested her head lightly against the wall, steady as though she'd anticipated this response. As though she'd seen it before in other rooms on other bases. With people who believed rank alone made them touchable, Pike cleared his throat and confirmed the vulnerabilities aloud. No. One thanked him. The silence stretched. And in it, something fundamental changed. The room no longer felt like authority confronting a problem. It felt like authority realizing it might be the problem. That realization frightened them more than any trespasser ever could. Lieutenant Commander Vaughn didn't like the feeling. It wasn't doubt exactly, it was the sensation of control slipping, of a situation refusing to stay contained. She'd built her authority on decisiveness, on pushing problems out of sight before they reached anyone above her, and now this quiet, unassuming woman had reshaped the room without raising her voice. Vaughn crossed her arms tighter and leaned forward, as if proximity could restore command. She dismissed the confirmations as coincidence, accused the woman of rehearsed deception, and reminded everyone that compliance procedures existed for a reason. Then she gave the order. Full strip search protocol. The words didn't echo. They sank. Even Hale hesitated for half a breath. Boone's eyes widened. Grant's grin faltered, replaced by uncertainty. The command hung heavy with consequence. This was no longer about security. It was about dominance. The woman didn't react. She didn't stiffen. Didn't argue. Didn't plead. She adjusted her stance by a fraction, heels aligning precisely beneath her shoulders. Her breathing slowed further, settling into a rhythm born of training rooms and controlled environments, not humiliation. This was the shift point. Not anger. Not defiance. Precision. Hale stepped close, his voice low and sharp, ordering her to turn, to place her hands where he could see them. He reached for her wrist, intending to guide her into position as he'd done countless times before. His grip closed. There was no strike. Asterisk in less than 2 seconds. She rotated her forearm inward, using the angle of his hold against him. The movement was compact, efficient, controlled, the kind designed to neutralize without injury. His elbow bent just far enough to force release. His balance broke. His breath left him in a sharp exhale of surprise. She stepped aside and let go. Hale stumbled back, not hurt, but exposed. The room froze. No one shouted. No one reached for a weapon. No one spoke, because what they'd just seen didn't match the story they'd built about her. That movement wasn't desperate, wasn't sloppy, wasn't emotional. It was professional. The fabric near her collar tore slightly in the motion, revealing skin, and the truth beneath it. Over her heart sat an eagle, wings spread in unmistakable authority. A trident, sharp and centered with deliberate symmetry. A pistol angled downward, not threatening, but resolute. Naval Special Warfare markings woven subtly into the design. Seal. Team 7 oversight. Insignia. The silence became physical. Grant's phone slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a hollow clatter. She didn't move to retrieve it. Boone backed into the wall, eyes locked on the tattoo. Pike felt his stomach drop as every calm observation replayed in his mind. This wasn't coincidence. This was assessment. Vaughn's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Words failed her. Hale stared at his own hand, flexing it, then looked back at the woman with something close to fear, not because he was injured, but because he understood too late that he'd laid hands on someone who needed no proof of authority. The woman stood exactly where she'd ended the movement, balanced, centered, in control. She didn't press forward, didn't exploit the moment. She simply adjusted the torn fabric with a precise motion and let her hands fall back to her sides. That restraint spoke, louder than violence ever could. The door opened. Master Chief Daniel Rohr stepped in and took in the scene in a single sweep. Hale's posture, Vaughn's expression, the phone on the floor, the partially revealed tattoo. He didn't hesitate. Rohr moved directly in front of the woman, came to attention, heels clicking softly against the concrete. He raised his hand and rendered a full, proper salute. No announcement, no explanation, just recognition. The silence deepened.